So good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming today. As you know, we are in the process, we're well underway and not far from our go-live date for the PeopleAdmin upgrade. So I think you'll find that the new site, if you are familiar with using the PeopleAdmin site now, I think you'll find the new site is fairly easy to navigate. There aren't too many drastic changes to the site, but the look and feel of the site is very different. So Kay Larson is here this morning from PeopleAdmin. We've been working very closely with her on training the human resources staff, and she's going to go through the end user training for all of our hiring departments. There was a communication that was sent out yesterday to vice presidents about the go live date for the site. It's actually going to be tentatively right now that we think it's going to be March the 13th. So positions that are currently posted and being recruited for, we're going to move those positions to their conclusion in the current site. So anything that's currently being recruited for is just going to get closed out in our current site. Anything brand new positions that are going to be posted, we'd like to post in the new site if that's possible. So we do kind of strongly urge you, if you have any positions that need to be posted, to please wait until March the 13th, if you can wait this couple of weeks before we get the new site up. That way, it just makes the transition a little bit easier. So on March the 13th, you're just automatically, when you go to the PeopleAdmin site, you're automatically going to be directed to the new site. You'll see a big message there that's kind of announcing to everyone that it's new, but we will have single sign-on. So you're going to be able to access PeopleAdmin through the portal now, through inside Loyola. So no more remembering passwords and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So it'll be a little easier to access. On March the 13th, it's going to be like a switch got flipped. So you're going to go through through inside Loyola, and you're going to be in the brand new site.
The old passwords are a thing of the past.
A thing of the past.
What about the templates that are currently in there?
For departments like transportation and parking, public safety, some of our facilities departments, we are going to preload some templates for positions that are frequently recruited for, so that those are in there. But all the old positions and things that you've recruited for in the past, you're not going to have direct access to that anymore. Human resources will have access to it for a time, so if you need the records, you can let your generalist know.
All our job descriptions are there. Maybe I'll go in there and pull them off.
That's probably a good idea. Yep. So you can need to let us know if you need access to historical data for any reason, but it's going to be a fresh new site, so you'll be creating new positions in the new site. Just some highlights of what the upgrade kind of is all about, what's prompting us to do this. Well, the old site is just out of date, so we need a facelift, frankly. But it has enhanced features for the Americans with Disabilities Act, so it's an accessible site, which is really important to Loyola. Again, the single sign-on is really just going to make the site easier to use. And there are a couple features, I think, specifically that the academic departments will really like, which is you can solicit reference letters to the site now. Third parties can go to the site and upload reference letters for people, so that's a big help, which Kay will talk more about. And there's also an increased upload capacity for the site. Before, you could only upload like very small files, but some of our faculty candidates have portfolios and things like that, so you'll be able to upload larger files. I'm trying to think.
Will also be able to actually do our they have websites.
Yes. If faculty have websites that they'd like, or any other applicants for, depending on what the position is, they can also upload a URL to the site. I don't think there's anything else. Do any immediate questions come to mind? Anything jumping out at you? Okay. And always, as always, your generalist is available. So once the site goes live, if you're having any questions or any trouble with the site, you can always contact your generalist. We'll help walk you through it. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Kay, who's here from PeopleAdmin. She's going to take us through our training this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone. I I'm hoping that you're going to be as excited about this new site as I am. I was actually here, I don't know, about a year and a half ago. So I've changed roles because I was here initially a year and a half ago to actually collect all their requirements, look at their old site, try and figure out how we can streamline it, make the processes easier and better for all of you. Then I changed roles and I became the education and training manager, so now I get the privilege to come back and actually train all of you. I will ask, this session today is all about you. I am going to try to compress about an 8-hour day into a 2.5-hour session. So please, as we're going along, go ahead and ask questions. There are no such thing as dumb questions, and I know in academics we all know that, but we don't all use it. So normally people say wait till the end. I prefer that you ask them at the time because you may forget what they are by the time we get to the end, or you may have others. So I don't mind the interruption. And it will help because we are being taped, and so eventually this will be available to other users within your department. We are going to break this 2-hour session down to 3 segments, so if you have other users who need to view it, when the site goes live, it will be available right on the site. And in smaller segments so they can digest it. So, again, my name is Kay Larson. Our company is in Austin, Texas. Fortunately for me, I actually work remotely from home in Fort Walton Beach, Florida. So it was nice to come up in the cold. No. No, actually, interestingly, that's the first time in the history of the Panhandle, because I'm right near Pensacola. We actually ended up with, on January 29th, for 3 solid days, we ended up with ice and probably like a smidgen of snow. But the ice was so bad that it actually shut down the entire interstate system. So you could not travel from Florida to Alabama or Florida to Georgia. You couldn't even travel from remote areas. Any place there were bridges, everything was closed completely. So you were landlocked. Wherever you were, everybody just stayed home. It was kind of an amazing type of thing, other than emergency vehicles. So hopefully that will never happen again. But Mother Nature is cursed. Okay. This is pretty small for some of you in the back. Basically, this is going to be our agenda. And we are going to break it down by sections and then continue to move through. So in section 1, we're going to talk about, I'm going to go through and introduce you to the site. And then actually walk you through the posting so you can see how easily you can actually create a posting and send it through to HR. In section 2, we're going to do applicant review. So this will show you how you would actually go in and look for your applicants once they've been posted. And then finally, a new section, we call it hiring proposals, you call it employment recommendations. The employment recommendation form will now actually go online to create a lot easier for you folks, 1 for tracking purposes and 2 for HR to also be able to track and move it through. So no longer having to fill out a piece of paper and putting in a holy Joe and walking it around campus. Our objective today is to provide you a high level of understanding of the following areas: homepage features, which are very important, creating and posting, managing applications, search committee and ranking criteria. This may be very interesting for the academic side of the house. Don't know if you're exactly using search committees and assessing your candidates, but you may find that interesting. And then again, your employment recommendation. This next form, these are your workflows. So when we design the system, we have steps that you're going to go through. You're going to, HR has actually said that on the website you currently receive something, you have a link that looks like this, that actually shows you, and I apologize for a small one, shows you the steps. These steps that are here basically match the steps that we have up there. So if you're a hiring manager or a hiring manager delegate, you can actually, you'll create the posting, and then you can move it through to your dean, your director. And so it's a very simple workflow, and you're only going to be given certain choices, so the decision-making process is fairly limited with regards to what you can do. And then any place you see a back and forth arrow means that you can send that back to that individual. So then it moves from there to the Academic Affairs Diversity, and then from there, this is faculty. So, and then to the Assistant VP, and then to compensation, and then to finally the Vice President, who will then send it in HR, and then HR will post it. Pretty much the same goes for staff, except there's a little bit more. Hiring manager delegate can create the posting. They're going to send it to the director. And then if it's an academic position, it's going to go to academic diversity. If it's not, then it's going to move down to the assistant or associate VP or dean. So for staff positions, you're basically going to take this lower level, and for the academic staff positions, you're going to take the higher level and come across. And then they ultimately all end up in HR compensation, then the vice president, and then HR will actually approve them and post them. So I would think pretty much similar to what your current workflow is now in doing things. Question?
Yeah, a lot of times, once we got to the vice president, it came back to us, and then we created the posting. So is that going to be different?
The workflows are not, this chart here with all these arrows and boxes looks very complex, but the workflows actually aren't changing. The main difference is that there is a special workflow in the academic division, and then there's kind of everybody else. So this kind of compresses those two processes into one very swirly, twirly little workflow there. But in public safety, typically there's a hiring manager who creates the position. It goes to Tim Fox, to Terry, and then to HR, who would post the position. That's how it currently works, and that's how it works.
Once it got to HR, then it'll come back to me and say, now you got to create this in PeopleAdmin.
Oh, there
You're talking
I was just using template.
You're technically
No, after the justification. Once we went through the whole justification, then it came back and I had to start the admin, and I had to send it to Tim, to Terry, to go up. So it went through the cycle twice. So what I'm saying is now will Mary create that position rather than me have to, once we get it through the justification.
You'll still create the requisition in PeopleAdmin, and you'll submit it to
Okay.
Tim.
So it's going to be a second.
Tim will submit to
Sorry.
Terry will submit to us, and we'll approve it and post it. Mary will approve it and post it.
All right, so that's what I'm saying, it'll still be twice.
Well, I think there's a CQ process of creating some kind of justification for the position
Yeah.
and sending it to cabinet for approval.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's completely a separate process from PeopleAdmin. And that, as far as I know, unless there's some change
But what
in
we've
the
always
leadership,
suggested
I
is,
guess.
it's already been approved, why do we have to go back through that cycle where I create it, I send it to Tim sends it to Terry, and then it goes to Mary?
Right.
So, it's like we're kind of, that's an extra week sometimes before I get a posting on.
We're still there.
Okay. All right. I mean, I've been living with it, so it's fine.
Yeah, any position, whether it's new, a backfill, any change in anyone's position has to have a justification go to cabinet first, and then after that, then the PeopleAdmin process starts. That's where we live still.
Okay.
Now, some of these next steps may in fact be new to you, and I'm just going to kind of glance over them real quickly. So basically, once you get applicants, so you post the position, HR has it out there on the website, people are applying. So the posting actually closes. Now, I understand now basically things come in at the level of under review by primary contact, so that may very well be one of you. You're going to go in and you'll be able to look at the applicants. The system is actually designed that as a primary contact, you can actually move these applicants through the workflows. Now, I understand some people don't. Some people leave everything at primary contact. You do all of your interviewing, you decide who you're going to do, and then you just move things to the final step, or you call HR to do the background screening when you actually have a final applicant. So you can continue to do that, but the process does allow you to actually take control, if you want to, and actually move your applicants through the process. And so basically you can see that here, and I apologize for the size of the screen. You never know when you're going out on site how big the screens are, but it goes from primary contact to under review by committee. As long as that applicant continues to move in a positive direction, meaning the fact that you're still leaving them active, then it would go on to the interview phase. As the hiring manager or the hiring manager delegate, once it gets to the committee level, if you decide that you don't want to interview them, then you can actually dispense them and put them into review by committee, not hired state. And then basically that takes them out of the running and puts them in a holding pattern for you. So in case somebody in the pool that you are considering decides that they don't want to be there anymore, you can actually go back to that pool and move somebody forward. None of these applicants will be notified they've been put anyplace until the position is finally completely done with. So you can always go back. And so then once you get to the interview phase, then you basically can do the same thing. So you can actually then move them to interview, not hired. And then you have a finalist stage. And at the finalist stage is when you would contact, once you have a finalist, that's when you would contact HR to do the background screen, and that is an out-of-system process, so clearly, so you do that pretty much what you do now. Once they give you the okay, then you move them to the offer job made. Once they accept the offer, then you would move them to recommended to hire. And you'll see all these as I actually take you into the site, so you'll see how all of these work. And then the new part, which is your employment recommendation form, which we call hiring proposal. So once you, as the hiring manager, have moved this individual to the recommended to hire state, then you'll get a little screen, a little button on the top of your screen that says start hiring proposal. We're going to try and get that to say start employment recommendation, so it's much more in tune to what you folks are used to. And then the hiring manager fills in. And what that does is that actually grabs the information from the applicant's application, so it pulls in all of their personal data. It will pull in the position title, and so then, as you'll see, it basically has the salary and all of the information that you would normally put on your employment recommendation form, right on that form for you.
Some departments do not use employment recommendations right now. In academics, you guys are familiar with using those. Some other departments and divisions, you know, when you have a finalist and you're ready to make an offer after the background screen, you just call HR and you let us know the person accepted and we'd like to hire so-and-so. But this is going to kind of automate that process. So you'll fill in, you know, the salary for the person and their name and all that, and that will come to HR, and that will prompt us to generate an offer letter for the employee. So that is a new part of the system, is that all of that's going to be electronic now, and it will all flow through PeopleAdmin. It has key fields that we need: the title, the pay, the supervisor, the person's name, and that allows us to generate an offer letter based on that employment recommendation.
Is there a field for social security number?
There is not, no, Natalie. Because we don't need that for an offer letter. We don't need it until people come in and fill out their paperwork. But I think you still will need it for the first change.
We need it to set up them as faculty on the course.
Right.
Yeah. And their birthday, well, we have their birthday, but we need the social.
Yeah. Yeah, that is not going to be on the employment recommendation form anymore. The ER that's in PeopleAdmin, whether it's for a faculty candidate or for a staff and administrator, it's not going to ask for the social anymore in PeopleAdmin.
All right, okay.
So maybe in your case, what you do is when you're actually having that verbal conversation at that point, and I assume that they do, that's what the offer stage is, that you're actually having a verbal conversation with the applicant. Should they accept it at that point, it would probably make them feel more comfortable if you're asking for their social security number at that point versus trying to do something online. You see a lot of people who are still very conscientious of the fact we, quote unquote, we can say we've never been hacked. So we're hoping that that stays that way. By not having that kind of information, we keep it much safer. So the bottom will basically be pretty much the same recommendation or the same approval process as what you would have if you were actually creating the posting. So, and the system, as you will see, will actually guide you through that. The only person who actually has to make a decision is if you have the associate vice president or dean approval, and then you have to decide based on the type of position it is, which way it needs to go. Pretty much that works exactly the same way for the faculty. So the faculty have that same process. They have a little bit shorter hiring proposal. So when you actually create your recommendation to hire, then you actually skip a step because you don't have the HR comp stage. So it's just going through these steps and then comes into HR. So right now I'm actually going to close out. Do we have any questions before we get started? This is what we call our login page. And so I'm actually going to take you on a journey through the site. And as I said, as we go through, please feel free to ask questions.
Can I ask a really quick question while you're doing that?
Sure.
And this is more for you, I think. Is there a part in this process, maybe in the employment recommendation stage, where there's an ability to pull metrics like where the person found the job? Just in terms of, because we're all sensitive to, what it costs to advertise and to recruit for folks. And we ask the applicant that information at the front end, but do either parts of these processes, or maybe at the employment recommendation, record or pull that information?
That's a good question. I do know that we can pull reporting, like you said, based on the front end information. But I'm not sure that we could pull it from the applicants who are actually hired.
What it does is, in HR has an option to do or do not do this. We actually have, PeopleAdmin actually has a free partnership with Google. Some people like using Google, some people don't. So I can't make that decision with regards, but Google does offer what they call free analytics. We talked about this yesterday. And obviously Kathleen would have to make that decision because, as we know, Google does a lot of advertising and things like that from websites. But it will actually track, and many of our schools are actually going to that, where Google will actually give us a code number, we put it in, and Google tracks where the actual applicant entered the system from for that specific reason. You know, you may see that, you know, on the questions that you all ask, it may say, how did you hear about this position? But not where did you actually apply for this position from? Did you come directly from the website? Did you come from the Chronicle of Higher Ed? Things like that. So Google actually tracks that moment in time where they hit and start that application. So if HR decides, and the IT department thinks that, you know, that's a wise thing to do, then they may very well do that. But currently the system is set up to not have that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so what I'm actually doing is I'm actually coming in as a hiring manager, which most of you would do in order to start the process. So this is what we call our home page or our landing page. And I take probably the most amount of time in going through this because, as you can see, it looks very different than your 5/8 site. And so we've tried to make this, we have tried to accommodate, based on all of our 1,000+ customers, easier ways for our users to be able to access information. So you'll come into your portal, you'll come into the PeopleAdmin site, you will now be brought to this, and so as a hiring manager, you have a number of different accesses or permissions that have been set up for you. So let's start from the top. This is what we call the module indicator. For 95% of you, the only thing that you will ever use is this blue screen called the applicant tracking module. The only thing that's on the other side is just the titles. In HR, normally we put that's where your templates and things lie. In HR, we do most of that. So you will have your module indicators, so you make sure you're on the blue screen. Then many of you may have more than one user type. So I'm not sure if anybody in this room has more than one user type right now. But if you do, then the user type finder is actually here, very high-level names. So if you have hiring manager and hiring delegate, or maybe you're a hiring manager and you're a department chair, you can change that. The most important thing to note here, when you're changing your user type, you must click on this refresh button. Absolutely important, because then it changes the permissions. You can see here that applicants went away, so department head directors can see all the postings and the hiring proposals. You'll also get a green line at the top of your screen every time you successfully change your user type. So before 5/8, you had to go down to the bottom, click on change user type, come up, change it, confirm, and click again. Now you don't have to do that. It's all very much right up in front for you. So we're going to change it back. So back to hiring manager and click on the refresh button. So that's one of the ease of use features that we have added to this new system. In addition to that, we have added a communication box. So HR now has a way to actually get information out to you. So in this one, we were playing with it yesterday, so you can see that we said we were going to close early. So if they were going to do that, and as regular users in the system, you would, then be able to see any messages. So if you're in there on a daily basis, like many of my users used to be, because I actually came from a university before coming to PeopleAdmin. I was the assistant director for employment and training and classification. So this is a great way for HR to be able to get information, training classes, office closings, things new about the site that you might need to know. So that will sometimes be there and sometimes not, depending on whether or not there's any information they need to get out to you. Secondly, there'll be an inbox. So what will happen is when you create a posting for the first time and you move it to the next user, so you're the hiring manager, you create the posting, and you're going to move it on to the director, you'll have an option to actually add this to your watch list. So from now on, you will be able to see where and who owns your position. So if you're creating a professor position and you move it to director, then every time that position moves in the workflow, it will be tracked here in your watch box. So you won't have to call HR anymore. You can just look down at your watch box and go, hey, that custodial position is now with HR. So then you can call HR and say, or it's with the associate dean. And I'll show you how that works when we move a posting through. If you're a director or above, so once you're the hiring manager and you create it and you move it to the next step, that director or that dean is going to get an email, and it's going to tell them that we have a position, just like you do somewhat what you do now. They'll have a live link there. They'll be able to click on the link. It will take them to this home landing page, and then they'll be able to actually go under postings and be able to see their posting. So if we were to click on see more here, and I don't know what user types I have out here. So I have actions. So I have every single user type in the system. So if I was the associate VP, let's say something comes to the associate VP, I see that I go into my inbox. If I go in and change my user type to associate VP, how easy is that to do? Then I can automatically see all the actions that I need to take action on. I just click on action and it will take me right to that item. So hopefully this will be a lot easier for people to get to instead of going down the side, searching for, going back and forth to try and find things. And the other really new feature here, as you just saw me use, is for all of these years we have always told our 5A customers you cannot use the back button. Well, in 7, in this new system, you can use the back button. So forget everything you have learned, you can now use the back button.
My favorite feature is the back button.
So, and as we go through it, I'll show you exactly how that works, and I'll also show you some additional features that we have added that you can actually go back if you need to as well. And then if you want to create a new posting, as a hiring manager, you have 3 actions. Their student posting is not going to be available. We're going to have it there. It is not going to be fully functional at this point in time. They're still working out the details with that, but that will hopefully be in another phase. So you have a shortcut here. So this is a shortcut area. So if you want to click on that, it will take you directly right into the posting to start. You'll also have some links. So this is where my links are, is where you'll have access to the Applicant Portal if you want to see how your posting looks to your applicants. You can do that. They'll also have these videos. Once they're cut, spliced, and ready to go, they'll also be out there with any additional links that they have. Maybe your workflows so that you'll know how to push something through the process. And any additional training materials that the HR will be right there for you to easily access. If you have multiple user types, so let's just say you happen to be a hiring manager, you were also the director of the department, and so you had multiple user types. If you wanted to go to, let's close this, if you wanted to go up here to your inbox as a quick way, it would automatically just take you to that screen that I had a few minutes ago. So if you have 2 user types, then you would be able to see, just like you have here, that we have actions at all of these different levels. So you would know right off the bat, okay, as you're supposed to be, I have 3 things I need to look at. So, and then just clicking the back button. You will have 2 areas on here. You will actually have postings and hiring proposals. This is pretty much a generic word. This is their design, what we call their sandbox right now. So you will have this tab and the hiring proposal tab that you'll have to work with. Hiring proposals will be your employment recommendations. So the same thing goes for there. Now, in regards to creating a posting, this part of it is very new, and you will have to pay attention to this. When you go up to where the posting area says, you'll see that we have it broke down by staff, admin, faculty, and students. If you're doing a staff position, you'll need to select staff admin. If you're recruiting for a faculty position, you will have to select faculty. So that will take a little bit of people getting used to. So if you accidentally hit faculty, when you get to that posting form, you're going to know right away you're in the wrong place because it asks for faculty, type of faculty and things like that. So you'll need to cancel the action, go back and start over again.
That back button.
Hit that back button.
Yes.
Wear it out.
Paying attention.
Wear it out. And so we're going to go to that in a minute. In addition, once your posting has been approved and you want to find your applicants, the same thing. If you have a staff posting, you would look under staff admin applicants and so forth. Hiring proposals are broken out the same way. There is a very extensive help menu. Probably most of you will not go to it, some of you will. And I will say this about it. It has everything that anybody would ever want to know about PeopleAdmin and this system, but it is not designed for your specific system. So it's basically a huge library of help information. So if you wanted to go in and say, how do I create a posting? You could type that in the search screen and it would bring you up and take you through the overall basic steps to do that. My profile is actually going to be your information. And so basically it brings up your username, your department, all of the groups that you're assigned to, all of the user groups, and basically all of your information. If you wanted to edit that for any purposes, you could do that. Manage emails, I'm not even going to talk about for the most part because basically all of you are set with very specific emails and there's only usually one or two that you're going to get in the system, so you won't be doing any actions within that. You do have many areas within the system of what we call a take action button. So your passwords are going to be already preset for you because they're your university passwords, so you won't need to touch that. You won't need to do that. But for some reason, if something changes and you need to add another group, so maybe you get promoted within the department and now you are a director. So you're not just a hiring manager anymore, you're a director. If you need to request that you have a group added to you, you can either pick up the phone and call HR, or you can actually do it online in the system. And then too, if you get married or divorced, you can also go into the system and change your name. And then we can use the back button and go back out. So any questions from what you see on this one screen?
I'm sure on March the 13th we'll have to play.
Well, absolutely, everybody does. And you'll be clicking on that link like, what did she say, what did she say? Okay, so here's my one question before we move forward. If you have multiple user types and you need to change your user type, when you do that, what is one thing you have to remember to do?
Refresh.
There you go. See, you've already passed. You're halfway on your way to making it. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start you through the workflow and move through. So we're going to create a staff admin posting. So you can see that. So basically what first comes in is what we call a saved search area. And this one is not set up with a whole bunch of things intentionally, so I can show you that as a hiring manager, as a user, one of the things you can do is you can actually search on your own information and you can create this area, tailor it to your needs. So right now we just have posting, custodial posting out there. So if I wanted to create some additional search features, when I'm actually looking, I can click on this more search options. And basically every row or every field that's on your posting form is in this add column. So right now I have position title and I think I have department, that's closed. I have active applicants. So I can actually scroll down and say I want to have the close date for I want to see the posting close dates. Just click on it, it automatically refreshes the screen and adds the additional search filters down at the bottom. We wanted to add department, so we click that, just that automatically updates the screen. And so now you can see that I have all of these postings with all of these close dates and exactly what departments they're in. So if you're a hiring manager delegate and you're managing this for multiple different departments, then you'll be able to see all of those postings. In addition, once I create this and say, okay, this is what I want to see, I can actually go in and I can save this search. So I can go to Save Search, I can make this my default search, and I can say, and then basically click on Save this search.
I'm thinking Christian or Dennis, this might be more useful for you guys. If you want to, not that you're in multiple departments, but that search function for people who generally have a higher volume of recruiting. You know, we have some departments who have one search a year.
Yeah.
You guys have more than that, and so you could, you know, tailor your searches so that you can look back at old stuff, see when things were filled. You know, you can kind of make your own search here.
For old stuff, what do you mean, applicants?
Yeah,
Well, after this year, after you get started.
Right. Yeah, after positions are filled, if it's been months that have gone by, and you want to go back to look at old positions that were filled and all the applicants that were in, you can do. It's good for, you know, people who have a more high volume for searches.
This also allows you to have a reporting functionality too. So maybe your vice president wants to know all the positions that you have posted. You can actually, from this Save Search, you can actually just click on this X box here and go over here to Actions. It will now give you the availability to export these results. And they automatically open up in an Excel spreadsheet, which then you can tailor, you know, to your use. So you can say that, you can show the close date, you can show the department. So again, by tailoring that Save Search, you pretty much can create reporting functions for within your own department. And there are also some filters, so basically if I just wanted to see those postings that were at the status of draft that I still needed to work on, I could just click up here on the workflow state that says draft and then click on search. And if there were any out there, and you added a workflow status, you would see that these are all in some kind of draft form. So you know that those are the ones that you need to go back in and work on. And I know this is all very new, so this part, HR probably will do some additional training on you and give you some like typed out instructions on how to create a Save Search. So we're going to create a new posting. So basically when you come in and you pick your type, your employment type, just to make sure we're at the right place, you're just going to click this big orange button that says Create New Posting. Oops, I guess we're not going to do, but we're going to be in Hiring Manager to do. The Hiring Manager starts this, or Hiring Manager Delegate starts this process off. So once you create new posting, then you're going to be given three options. Now this is different, so you might want to write this down with regards to, this is different than your 5/8 site. When you're creating from a position type, that equals create from scratch in the 5/8 site. So create from position type equals create from scratch. Create from title is probably exactly what you have now. Create from title or template. And then create from posting is create from previous. So when your 5/8 says create from previous, so this would be create from posting. And each one of them work differently. Basically, the creating from position type, which is scratch, is basically a blank screen. If you're going to create from a title, you're basically going to go in and select the title, and then create, and the information from that title will then copy over into your posting. It works exactly the same way as your 5/8 does now. And then create from posting means that you'll actually go out, find the posting that you want to duplicate or use as the base, and then everything in that copies over, and then you can edit it. So we're going to create from position type or create from scratch today. Now the new features are going to come up with what we call a settings page, where we're going to grab the high-level overall information about this position. So what is the position title going to be? So maybe it's going to be facilities director. My initials so we can follow it. We've actually now broken out your organizational unit by divisions and departments. So once you select the division, so let's say in this case it is the administration division, not sure. And we're going to say that it's going to be for environmental. So basically what you saw is once I select the division, then only those departments that fall under that division are actually available to you. So it's kind of like you can't really make a mistake in selecting the right one. And then you'll start out by, currently there's no other additional workflow that you can select. I do understand that that is something we're going to add for faculty.
Yeah, so you'll have the option to do primary contact or under review by committee if you have a search committee for the position.
And all that means is that the first step in the process, when an applicant finishes applying, the first step is either going to be their application is going to come under review by primary contact, or it's going to go under review by search committee. So that's all that will mean. For those people who actually do want to use letters of recommendation or references, you actually now have an additional screen. This will take some getting used to. You do not have to use this. This is completely optional. If you want to check it, nothing happens, and you'll be asked one more time in the actual posting form itself if you want to use it. If you don't fill out anything here and you decide within the posting that you do want to accept letters of recommendation, then it will just automatically default those letters at the very first step in the process. But this actually allows reference notification. So if you're in a faculty posting and it says, when do you want to invite those references to provide that information? It may not be that at that initial step of under review by search committee that you want those letters of recommendation. You may not want them until the applicant actually reaches the interview phase. And so you have the availability here to actually select where in the process you want that recommendation provider or reference provider to be notified. So we might say interview phase. You probably are not ever going to use these other two because many people do not disqualify somebody if they don't get letters of recommendation. That's really out of the applicant control. But some schools actually do use it, so we put it in as an optional so that when all the recommendations have been provided, do you want that application to move to another step? Most people just leave it blank. So basically now on the interview phase, these people will be notified. Everything else here has already been pre-checked and pre-filled in for you, so you don't have anything else to do. And then you click on Create New Post. Tells you at the top that it's been successfully created. Now it's going to ask you to actually go through and fill out the document. So on your 5/8 system where all of your tabs are across the top of the screen, now your tabs are down the side. And so if you can actually go from skip a tab, but you can't actually push this to the next state or move it on for approval until all the required fields have been filled in. So it does have a spelling checker, which we know your 5/8 system doesn't have. So it's automatically set to check spelling. And then basically, just like in your 5/8 system, there'll be required fields. And we've highlighted them, we've put an asterisk, we've made it so that everything is, you really can't miss it. I'm not going to fill in all of the fields, but you would if you're doing this. Basically, if it's a new position, yes or no. And you'll fill in. So I'm expecting that pretty much the form is almost exactly the same as the current posting form that you're using.
There are a few minor edits.
And you'll see that in a minute. So let's see, this is a big position, so let's see. Funding source, you all have that. I'll just put it in like that. Now what you will see here that you won't see in other places, that you probably don't see on your posting form now, actually, they probably do. They probably have a supervisor drop down menu or one of those slide overs. Because it is personal scope. Basically, you're going to see hiring manager. So if you're the hiring manager and you're completing this, your name needs to go here. And that basically allows you to have access to the posting throughout the whole process. Because you have personal scope, so that means that you can only see things that your name falls under. If you're in as a director or department, you can see everything because that's department scope. So you may have multiple hiring managers within your department. The three of you may be hiring managers for the same department. So you can see your own, she can see her own, but you can't see each other's. But your director could see everything because they have department scope. So your name would have to be here. And then required fields is all of the position information. So for today, I'm just going to do this and that's sound effects. Again, HR has, you're familiar with what fields you absolutely have to have filled in. Time purposes, job posting date. All of our dates are all calendars, and so in this case you will have nothing to worry about because it goes back to 1914 and comes all the way through to 2114. So I think we have plenty of date ranges to actually go with. So we're going to say that we want to post this position today. And then you'll have all of your other fields that you can fill in. Supervisor. Again, this is for informational purposes, but it is required. Maybe that's the same person. And contact phone number.
Good question. If you're the hiring manager and you're hiring this position under another supervisor and you put their supervisor, does that supervisor have access?
No, if that other supervisor actually has hiring manager user type and he's in your department, he should show up in this list. So for instance, if it was going to be, if both Mary Alice and I were going to have permission, you can add multiple people to that list.
Oh, okay.
You have to have them one at a time, or can you just highlight, like, control?
No, you have to hire them one at a time. But hopefully your lists aren't going to be that big because they're going to be designed by your departments. So. Now we click on next. Next, basically just going to take us to that next tab. So posting supplemental questions. You use supplemental questions now, asking the applicants. Now, do you have a degree or do you have specific requirements with regards to the position? You may use it more on the academic side than we do on the admin staff side. HR actually has a library, very similar to the 5/8 system, except for now HR can actually go in and take out all of those duplicate, millions of duplicate questions that are in your system that says, you know, do you have a PhD 14 times, all spelled differently or worded differently? HR has the availability to manage the library now, so you hopefully won't have like 14,000. We had a customer probably about 2 weeks ago says, can you bring over our supplemental questions? And they had like 30,000. They had been using the system since 2000. You couldn't take anything out in the 5/8 system. It was like, cannot do that. We will not be bringing those over. So HR, before you go live, will go in and put some standard ones in there. But as a hiring manager, you can actually create your own. Okay, just like you can now. So basically, you can just click on add a question. Nice thing about it is what we've done is HR will set up categories. So there'll be education, experience, and standard categories. And if you don't see it, you just click on down here to add new. And you just come up with this screen. And basically the name, so you just where you would put the question. You think, so maybe this is facilities director, so maybe experience. And if you want, you can select the category. So this is going to be experience, and this says then you have the availability to put predefined, so you can put yes or no, or maybe the question says, you know, please explain your facilities experience, and then you can leave it open-ended. So you can just type in this and no here. And then on submit. What happens is if you actually create the question, you'll see it's in a pending status. So it will stay pending until it reaches HR. Then HR will look at it, make sure that it's a legal question. They may call you if they need to make some slight wording changes or something like that. Because we don't want any questions going out to applicants that would be not legal or ethical. So you can actually make it required. Once you do that, you can click on there and you can actually, just like you do, you can put your disqualifying. So if the answer to no, if the answer to the question is no, I don't have 7 years of experience, and that's the minimum that you're going to accept for that position, then all applicants who apply that have less than 7 years experience, if they say no, they would be automatically disqualified. So you have that availability to use that too, or you can just assign points. So if they say yes, they get 100 points. If they say no, maybe they only get 50 points or 0. So you have the availability to do that too. And then click on next.
Okay, why you check required? Does that mean they cannot finish the application?
No.
Or they,
No, because it's actually going to let them go all the way through until they get to the end. And at the end, the system actually looks at that required question, and they'll automatically be notified that they didn't meet the minimum requirements for the position.
well, I'm just saying, if there's certain questions that we want to make sure they fill out. A lot of times we'll get incomplete applications. So I was hoping that would be that they cannot close out without going back and answering that.
Do they have to answer the supplemental question if it's required? Or
I think if it's on there, they have to answer it.
Okay.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah. The required
You
here
check that
means it's
required
required.
box.
Okay.
So so one way or the other. Yeah. As long as you check that required box, then they can't get past it, and they'll get an error message. And you'll see that when we actually look at the application. Okay. So then we just go on to next. And so basically, we're going to move down through all of these tabs. Now, the next 2 tabs are basically optional tabs for staff folks. Again, this may be something that Academic Affairs wants to use with their faculty. We do have an option now called search committees. Now, what I will say is, if you are going to use assessment criteria or ranking criteria, then you would want to use a search committee. If you're not going to have them actually assess the applicants online, then you would probably want to continue to use the guest user. Because only functionality that search committee has is to be able to, 1, they can go in and see the applicants, but 2, they can actually evaluate the applicants. And it provides an Excel spreadsheet so they can see how the applicants, rate out or are assessed. Who can see that? The spreadsheet would be the individual completing it, the hiring manager, and the senior level department people within there. So if the 2 of you are search committee members, you could not see each other's. You can only see your own. Okay. And so if you wanted to add search committees, and this may work for you guys as well. I mean, if you want to add search committees, you just click on. You can either enter the name, or you can click on search. And everybody who's been assigned in the system as a search committee member, you just click on add member.
And that's even, you can see you had your home email. That could be like, we have an advisory board member on our search committee.
Okay,
That's
so if you have
outside.
somebody, if they have a campus email address, they can be added here as a search committee. If it's somebody in the community, that has to be, then we have to say to HR, they still have to use guest user, so they would not be
Okay.
able to have that about the.
Oh, well, then yeah, that would make sense.
So you can do that. If you see this list, and there isn't somebody on there that you want to, you can actually, at that point in time, give them the name, the email address, first name, email address. If they have a username, you can enter that. You submit it, it automatically goes to HR, and HR would get an email saying you have a user to approve. They can go in and look to make sure that it's a valid user, and they can click on approve, and then you can add that person to your list.
And then are they going to have to take that class in order for you to approve it? The hiring class?
Like that Academic Affairs does? I think anybody who has a search, doesn't everyone on the committee have to go?
Right,
Each-
but you don't track that.
Academic Affairs tracks that.
Okay.
Yeah, Martha's office would do that.
So you may all have to work out that piece with regards to before you approve this, or when you approve it, and let them know that somebody within Academic Affairs has actually been given search committee right. Search committee members, if you do this, will automatically be notified by email when the posting has actually been posted. Just like your guest user, you still have that same access. So guest user comes up a little bit farther down the line, but basically the same thing goes there. So for guest user, you can enter now the guest user's email address. So the next tab is ranking criteria. So if you are going to use that, hiring managers can actually create their own ranking criteria. And again, I'm just going to select one that's here because you'll see that this is different. So this is now worded in such a way that the search committee members are actually grading the applicants. So this will not be questions that the applicant fills out. This will be questions at the search committee. So then we would actually say, rate this applicant. The information has already been put in there, and we're going to have them be rated when they come under primary review, primary contact. So we'll just, and then you click on submit. And this is one that's already been approved, so it doesn't have to, it's not pending approval, it's already in the system. Next tab is applicant documents. You've actually see that we changed this significantly. So now we clearly have 3 columns. Documents we're not going to use, documents that will be optional for the applicant to attach, and then documents that will be required. We're going to say that a resume is required, and then we're going to go down here, and I'm also going to point out that this media sample is basically the URL. So if you are a department that requests maybe that somebody provide you with artwork or writing samples or things like that, where they would actually have it out on a website, then you would want to select media samples so that they could basically upload that web address or that URL, and you can just click on that and go right to their site. That is a new feature that we added as well. And so then basically, and I'll just click it so one can see if we can do that. So these are all the documents that HR has predetermined, and I'm pretty sure that these are fairly similar to what you currently have in your site with what you request for the applicants to provide. Then adding guest users, hiring managers now have the availability to do that. Again, HR will look at it, so you just create a guest user account. And automatically, this is the username and password that would come up. You would have the availability to edit that password, so maybe because that one's so confusing and people might forget it, if I just wanted to call it director, I could do that, update password. And then you're just going to enter the email address of the person that you want to invite. And then update guest list. What happens again, once it's posted, email will go out to all of those, and you can see who you've invited, so that will show up there. And then the next step is basically creating a reference. So if you want to use those letters of recommendation, so we said in that first screen that we did want to accept letters of recommendation, so now we say it, so it automatically populates to yes here. Now you can actually outline how many of those you want. And so that way the applicant would actually have to be able, once they fill out their application, they'll be given a page that says, please list your applicant name and their reference, their email address, so that the system will automatically generate a notice out to them. So for our purposes, we're going to say 1 and 1. Do you have a cutoff date? So if you want it to come in the same day the posting closes, then you can do that. If you want it to be ultimately, what we do is we probably say, give them like the day before the posting closes so that people would know. For this purpose, we'll say that on the 20th, just so that it has a cutoff date. And then click on next. So now basically you have completed your posting form. Does that seem difficult? Does that seem fairly easy to follow? Basically, it's just going down tab by tab and completing the information that's requested of you. So now you have an opportunity to actually see it, review it. If you want to make changes, you just click on the edit button and it reopens the whole document so that you can go back in and make changes. And so you get down to the end, you can see that there's your question, and it says it's pending. There's your search committee members, there's your ranking question. There's what you want for applicant documents. There's your guest user password, and there's your reference information. Okay, and then basically this is the take action button. So this is the one that follows that workflow or follows this little chart that HR has on the website. So you have choices. You can keep working on this posting. So maybe you have to walk away and you want to save it. So all the data has been saved. Every time you switch from one tab to the next, the data automatically saves. HR has extended your timeout features. So instead of having just a 60-minute timeout, where if it's inactive, the site goes down, it's 180 minutes now. So that gives you a little more working time. So you can do that, or you can see the choices are that this is the submit directly to your director. That's the only choice you have, other than unless it's a temporary position. And you all know that if it's temporary positions, you can go directly to HR. So that's it. That's the only choices you have. Or you can cancel. So we're going to go ahead and submit it directly to the director. Here's a comment area. I will preface that this comment area should be saved for comments that are directly related to the posting, and not, hey, you guys want to have drinks after work tonight, because they are, in fact, legal, and they are become part of the history of the document. So it may be that you're saying, you know, this is the posting that we talked about a week ago with regards to whatever, please approve, things like that. But it is, some people go, oh, right, we can make comments, great. Because the comments actually end up on the email that goes to the next user. So they see it there, and then it's tracked in the history of the document. So it becomes legal.
Best behavior in the world.
So that's a good one. You'll notice that down at the bottom it has been checked. Add this posting to your watch list. First person in the system as the hiring manager, that will always be defaulted for you, so you will not have to worry about it. If you don't want to watch it, if you don't want to track it, which I don't know many of you that would not want to do that, you can actually uncheck it. And then you're going to click submit. Now the director, department head, whoever has that user type, is actually going to now get an email. But I want to go back to that home page and I want to show you. It tells you at the top it's been added to your watch list. So now I can go down and I can look for the posting. And there it is. If I want to go back and look at it, I can just click on it right there. Now I said you can use the back button. Additionally, when you're in a place like this, you can also, anytime you have this little, what we call breadcrumbs across the top of the page, you can also click on those and they will take you back. So you can just click once and it takes you back. Takes you where you're at. You click on Staff Admin, the system's working. It will take you back to your postings. You click one more time and then you can go back. Or you can just use your back button and move back to your. So you have options now. So now the director has gotten the email, so we're going to basically go in. Director gets it, he logs in, he comes to his inbox, he goes, oh, okay, so this is where it is. A lot easier for them to be able to find it. They just click on it. They're automatically taken right to the posting. One thing you will notice, and we'll talk about it at the end, but you will notice we have added these additional tabs across your posting. So one, here's the history. So you can see, so they can look at that and they can say, okay, emails have been sent. Posting override, posting has been changed to the status, who changed it, who created it, when you created it. So it grabs all of your history now. Anytime you make wording changes, it will actually also grab the changes in wording, show you what was there to what is there now. So you'll have that. Once you do start to get applicants, then that will be where your applicant will show up. And then reports, once you get applicants, then you'll have your departmental EEO report that you'll have immediate access to as well.
That's nice because that's connected to it instead of going.
Yeah.
So having to go out to a different place and run a report off of that, Everything is within the system in one complete place for you. And you can also look and see how the posting is going to look to your applicant, so you can see it. So these are the fields that HR has determined that off of the posting would go out to the applicants. It's a very easy block read. Again, this is based on ADA standards, so it's a very easy block read. You will notice, though, that some of the things that have changed is that now we show the applicants what documents are required of them up front. So before they even get into the process, they can have their resume and documents ready. And it also shows them what supplemental questions they're going to need to answer so they can be prepared to successfully complete those as well. Okay, so now I'm the Dean Director. I look at it and I say, go down through. Everything has got a blue check mark. If there was anything that needed to be edited, you would see an orange mark. There would be an orange exclamation circle there that would show you that. And it would not let you pass it on to the next stage until everything had been completed. So everything is all done. And so now we're going to, as the Dean Director, I have a few more decisions I need to make. So I can keep working, I can submit this to Academic Affairs Diversity, return it to the hiring manager, or submit it to the Associate VP.
So people who are in non-academic areas are going to choose submit to assistant or associate vice president or dean. If you are in an academic department, which you guys are accustomed to doing, it's going to go to Academic Affairs Diversity. So that's, you'll have to make the right choice there. When you're ready to submit it.
We don't submit to director?
It's already at the director
Oh, it's
stage.
right at the director.
It's already at the director.
Yes.
So Tim has to do it.
Right.
Yeah, so director is already at, the director's getting ready to move it to the next step, and your director is going to pick that's going to the Associate VP. Again, the director can now make comments, same thing goes there, and then just submit. So now, and you'll notice that here shows the name of the posting, shows the position type, shows the department it's attached to, shows who created it, and shows who currently owns it. So if you're in your watch list and you click on it, you can actually click, not only will you see that in your watch list, but you would also see that the owner, so currently this is with the Associate VP. So when the Associate VP gets it, they're going to come in with their user type, change their user type. Again, they go to their inbox. Scroll down, there it is. Basically, the system becomes it's a continual repetition. Now, at the Associate VP level, they have some, every time it grows to another step, there's more decision-making process to go. So I'm assuming at this point, the Associate VP is going to send this one. They can return it to the director. They can return it to the hiring manager. They can also make a comment when they return it to the hiring manager that says, funding source is not correct on here, or, you can't post this position right now, or disapproved, and they can send it back to you. So if you get that says it's at the status of return to hiring manager, probably there's going to be something you're going to need to fix on it. And then if everything is good to go, then they're going to submit it to HR compensation. Gets it, they look at it, they're perfectly fine, everything is good, and so then they're going to now submit it to your vice president for final approval. Vice president goes in and looks at it, says, yep, I'm all happy with it, okay, so now it's going to HR for posting. They submit it, HR is going to get it. And last but not least, now you can see here now HR is going to get it. They'll do the activating the guest user. If there are guest users, they'll make sure everything is good to go. They're going to come down here on the posting and they're going to look at the posting and they're going to see that they have an orange mark. And they have an orange mark because that supplemental question that you created now needs to be approved. And so they can just look at it and go, okay, that's good based on this position, and they can just approve it. And then it automatically becomes part of the questions in the supplemental library, so the next time you go to recruit for a facilities director and you need 7 years of experience, you don't have to create another question, it's already out there for you. And then HR at this point in time, now HR has access to do everything in the system, so should you get stuck, should you panic, should anything happen, should you forget everything that you learned today, which you might because it's still 2 weeks away, that you will be able to call HR and HR can then move it to any place within the entire system that they need to, just like they can now. So they're actually going to go ahead and post your position, everything looks good. Any questions about creating the posting? Does it look easier, functionality-wise? It's bigger, it's cleaner, you have a lot to do. Do you think that you can use this with a lot
Well,
more
I
ease?
guess I had one question is, once we create a position, if it's like an officer position that we're constantly filling, I'll be able to go back and pull that on, go through this.
You'll go back and create the posting from the previous posting.
Yeah.
So it'll copy all of the information and you can just edit anything that you need to change for that officer. But it will have to go through the approval process.
Oh, yes, I understand that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so now basically that position has been posted. So I'm going to now change my type back to hiring manager. I'm going to go back to my home page and I'm going to see that on my site. I'm going to see now that is my facilities director on my watch list. Tells me that the position has been posted and human resources owned. So now that means it's out on the website, applicants are applying. So I can now go back in as the hiring manager if I want to see my posting. Click on posting, staff admin. Changes if I want to do a keyword search, and that's why I put my initials on the end. I just enter that. So there's my facilities director position. And that's it. So everything up here is keyword search. So you can just put, it has to be direct. I should be able to just search everything with DIR. And it would just bring back facilities director. So I can watch it that way at this point. Real quickly, I'm just going to take you through the applicant so you can see what the applicant looks like and how they go through the process. We're actually going to go ahead and apply for this position. So when you come to your applicant portal, HR is going to put up a notice to applicants telling them if they're going into a new system. Even the applicants are not going to know that they're going anywhere different. Everything for them will look the same. This is their portal now. This is what their portal will look like when they go in. If they don't have an account, they will actually, if they're searching for a job, then they'll automatically be required to create an account. So for instance, right now, if I saw here's my facilities director, as an applicant, I can actually view the details. So again, as I pointed out, they can see the posted questions, they can see what applicant documents they're required to complete. If I want to, they can bookmark it, they can print it, they can apply it, they can actually email it to a friend as well, if they want to. So if they want to apply to this job, the first thing it's going to say is that they need to log in. Okay? So your applicants will need to create an account. I actually have created a couple of accounts out there. Password. But the other thing, that if they haven't, and they don't have an account, they can actually create a new account right here online. They can fill in all of the information. As soon as they click on create, they'll automatically be taken back to that posting to apply for. So I'm going to come in here and
At what point do they do the EEO?
at the end.
Okay.
At the end of the application process. And then they can log in. You'll also notice, and this is more for HR's benefit, but if they forgot their username or password, they can actually click on here where it says forget username and password, and it will be prompted them. One, if they forgot their username, it will ask them for an email address. Once they get the email address, it gives them their username, and then if they forgot their password, they just put in their username. So HR, that's a whole burden off of HR that they don't have to do anymore. And then they're going to log in. Once they're logged in, now I'm logged in as an applicant, and so now I can apply to this job. And basically everything that I currently have out there on my application will actually come over to my name. And so all the required fields for an applicant are filled in. So we've already done that, so they don't have to spend a lot of time. They can edit their application as need be. Not required. Takes them much easier for them on their side too, with regards to moving through the process. Now they have to have a reference here, so this is their recommendation piece. So they have to write a name. So there's your email address that the system will use, and then you can just click on next. Again, additional information, nothing required here, so they can skip through that. Been convicted, yes or no? They can click through that. Once they're done, there's a question, do you have 5 years? If you answer no to that, then they're automatically, we made it required. If we made it disqualified, they would automatically get a notice. So you can see it is required, so they can't bypass it. So yes, I have 7 years of experience, and then click on yes. Next. Now you can see here's where their documents are, so they need a resume. So we're going to go out and browse. So basically that's all they do. I don't have any documents out here, so let's just go grab something after this that I can put in here. Perhaps
That's my actual age drive.
No, that's my actual thumb drive.
Okay, fair enough.
And then submit. And then you show that it says the PDF is in process. The other thing they're going to be doing is they'll then go back up and add that media sample. And so file upload, and then right here it says link to online media sample. So you click on that and you put in the URL.
Why not tool
It's
this?
nice. It's nice.
And then you submit. And it automatically grabs the external link to the sample. You click on next. It should be their certification. The applicant's going to see in very clear, big blocks. Check green mark and check marks mean everything is good to go. Education, training, employment, everything. They got all green check marks. They can now, you can see that their resume is up there, and they can see that this is their applicant link. So they're going to certify it. It's a double certification, so they must click that, and then they must enter their initials and submit the application. Any questions from the applicant side? And every time the applicant comes back in, they'll automatically, every time they go to create an application, it'll pull in the most recent application that they have, and so they can, and then they can edit from there. They can also then see their documents. If they choose to withdraw from the process, they actually have the availability now to withdraw themselves. So if for some reason they get to your department They skip HR, they say, oh, I'll call, applied for the Commarks position or something like that, or then you say, but I'm not interested anymore. You can tell them. You can now go out to the website and withdraw yourself, and I'll take you out of the money. And so they'll be able to see all the positions that they actually applied for, along with all the others.
So is there any way that you can have like an email that once somebody applies, sends to like either myself or to my chair? Because it's like we're on round 2 because we haven't filled the position. And it's just like we keep forgetting to go back in.
As long as the position is still out there and it's accepting applications, then no.
I guess it would be ridiculous because some people get hundreds.
That's it.
We
You
don't
will be
have
bombarded
that.
with emails.
Would always be on there with
Yeah, we
something.
wouldn't.
And the security board.
That's on our third site.
Yeah, you would be bombarded. That would be.
Right.
It sounds good to think about it right now, but until you have like 50 or 60 applicants and they're all applying all day long, pretty soon they end up in the deleted file and you forget they're there anyways. Okay, so now basically we have an applicant that's applied for our posting, and so now we're actually going to move into the next section, which is section 2, and called applicant review. And this may be familiar or unfamiliar. The system pretty much works very similar to the 5.8 site, and the fact that now your posting is closed, and you're going to go in and you do get, I think they do get an email, right? Currently they do get an email when the posting closes, or do you get an email and you notify them that the posting is closed?
If you select, very few of our departments actually do that. We have a lot of departments who use priority application deadlines, but we very infrequently have people close postings automatically, but we have a few, they get an email when the posting closes.
As long as you're getting that
Whoever created the position, whether it's the hiring manager or the director or the chair.
email, you'll get that. So the same thing, same functionality will work within this system. So now we're actually going to go in and we're going to look at our applicants. So we're going to go to the staff admin posting. We're going to find the posting. We're going to go down. We're going to see facilities director. We're going to see we have one applicant. And I may remove some of these and use some of these because they have multiple applicants, so you can see what it looks like. So now what I always recommend is there's the posting. You'll come all the way over to the right side and it says view posting, view applicants. I always recommend for department users that the first thing you want to do is actually go to the view posting. Because once you go to the view posting, it's actually going to give you the applicant tab. That way you know you're always working in the right posting and you have the right pool of applicants. And that's just a preference for me from a training perspective to teach that. And so now you would actually go in, click on the applicants tab, and you would see down here that here's the applicant that applied, and here's the status that they're at. If you want to view their application, you just click on View Application. And so then you'll be able to actually go in and see, and you'll be able to go see that their recommendation is there, and this is who they recommended, and that person has not responded. Because we also said we didn't want them to go out until it was at the interview phase, so nothing has been sent at this point in time. Which is not something that you would have seen. 5.8 also has this similar functionality, but you would not have been able to see that. You also would have your departmental report, so if you did need to, your EEO report, your departmental EEO report will actually show up here. It hasn't been loaded as of yet, but it will. And so then you can go in and start to look at the application. If you're going to move that person onto a different staff, like I showed you in the original workflows that we have that has to do with applicants, some of you may choose to actually move them through these various workflows. If you do, then this was where you would go over here to take action. And you would see that you would have basically 3 choices. You could move them to the next stage, which in your case is maybe under review by committee, or in your case it may be committee, depending on if this is an admin job. So you would pick up the applicant and you would move them to that status. You look at their application and you determine, you know what, this application doesn't have near enough facilities experience for this position, so you can put them into that not hired. Or if you want to skip that review committee completely and move them to the interview phase, you can automatically do that as well.
Does the applicant get to see that?
No, the applicant sees in progress all the time. It moves until the posting has been completely done, you have your finalists, and then they would get a not hired email and a not hired notification.
We make sure that the notifications, emails that say, thank you for your application, but you were not hired, or showing the not hired status in the system does not happen until we fill the position online. Then those notifications go out afterward. Yeah, we don't want to be getting them throughout, because again, if you get far along in the process and you think you've identified your candidate and it doesn't work out, you may go back to your pool. So you don't want those emails going out haphazardly.
Will the ranking function, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
the ranking function still be available?
If you choose it, yes, so absolutely. If you want to use it specifically for police officers or things like that, I know at our university, they actually did use an assessment factor for police officers. So yes, if you choose to use that and you choose to put that, put the questions in there that you want your search committee to actually answer, then yes, they would be able to do that. I'm actually going to go back to pull other things that you can do as from a hiring manager perspective. As you see, there's there's an action button. So if at this point in the workflow stage you said you wanted to evaluate this applicant, you're just going to click it. So the hiring manager can do this and the search committee member. So we can evaluate this applicant. And there's the question. So basically that's how it shows up once you click on it. So search committee members would get that same thing. They would log in, they would go to evaluate applicant, and then they would get all the questions that you had and they could fill in. So does this person have great Excel skills? So you say good, and you have an opportunity to make a comment as well. And then you click on either save or next. It's the only applicant, but you would also get that for all the applicants, so that would appear there. And then you can actually go in and you just want to see the screening questions. So you can actually review screening questions. So you can see that you have one applicant that said that yes, they have. You click on that one applicant, and it's going to drive you back to that individual. We've put a lot of more intuitive features into the system. Go back. In addition to that, you also have what we call some bulk features. Let's slide down here a little bit so we can see. Under actions, you can see that you can bulk move in the workflow. So if you have multiple applicants, this is a very handy feature. So I'm going to actually go to one of the other postings so you can see what this looks like. Now we have a posting here, so we want to actually go in and we want to view this posting. So we're going to view the posting again, because that's the only way I recommend to stay on track. And we're going to look at the applicants. Now you can see here we have 8 applicants and they're currently all under review. So if we wanted to bulk move, so if we looked at their applications, we determine which ones we want to move forward and which ones we want to dispense. So let's say we can now take these 3 and we want to go in and we want to move them in the workflow. So you can actually now come in and you can change all the applicants to the next step. So maybe these guys are all going on to the interview phase, and then you save changes. So much easier. In order to move applicants, you can do it in lump sums. You want to dispense all of the rest of the applicants, then you can actually do the same thing for the last ones. Down here, go up here, move in the workflow, and change these to move them to the not hired list. How did I see it? Interviews not hired.
Second from the top.
Yeah, not hired list.
But you can pull them back if you had to,
Absolutely, at any point in time.
and they don't see this like he said.
And then you see when you have not hired, HR has set forth, please tell us the reasons. So maybe they all have the same reason. And so these are do not meet minimum requirements or salary or reference, so these are the ones that they put in here. So each one of them may be different. So in that case, you can actually put, so maybe the first one didn't meet mins, the one had a salary requirement, and the last one had maybe a background discrepancy. And you save the changes. So now they're all what we call in an inactive state. So they are no longer, it takes a couple of minutes for them to actually change. But say we wanted to take this user type and we wanted to actually put them back in the pool, you would just go back to them and you could move them back to under review by primary contact. And then that would change the stats right at the top of the screen. So it's that easy to do that. So now I'm going to do is actually go back here and go back to our original posting. And I'm actually going to change my user type to search committee member. So now the department has notified me that I can now go in and evaluate these applicants. So as a search committee member, I'm actually attached to this posting. So I can now go in and view the posting. It's not the right stage yet, sorry about that. Come back up here. So you have to remember where you're at with the process. And then as the hiring manager, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move this applicant to the status of interview phase, because I believe that that's where we actually said that the search committee could now come in. So we move it to interview phase. So now from a hiring manager, you'll see I now have this button that says evaluate applicants. So search committee now gets our email, phone call saying you can now go in and evaluate. It does work this way. That will be turned on, so you'll see a place where it'll say evaluate applicant right here. And you'll just click on that under applicants and available to, let's see, view their application. See, it's supposed to be. You may want to just make sure that search committees have access, that that's been turned on. It may not be turned on in your sandbox yet,
Okay.
but from a go live, when you're getting ready to check for that, just to make sure that that works. Basically, once you're in that applicant, you would have that same availability to evaluate that applicant.
So could a search committee be a primary contact? Could they review let's say all of the applicants that come in for a search, or does someone have to go in first and change a status?
Now, if you put all of your applicants, if you put them at the status of that you want them to be evaluated at the primary contact stage, then yes, search committee can go in right off the bat and do their evaluation. And for an admin position, that probably may be where you want to go through. Or maybe the hiring manager wants to go through and weed out the people who clearly don't, meet the qualifications first, and then move them to the search committee, and then at that point in time, they'd evaluate. Now, there are some search committee, hiring managers who want the search committee to do everything. I'm not sure if that's the way it is here, but it is that way at other schools, and that's what they can do that at that stage.
I think for faculty, they like that. See everything.
So you do have a few more features from the hiring manager perspective with regards to. The other thing that you can do is you can actually, again, you have this saved search. So let's go and look at this one where we have all of the applicants. So, well, let's look at this. We'll view the applicants on this one. So now again, you have saved search. It shows all of your applicants. If you needed to print a report out from one of your senior managers or whatever, you can actually do the same, export results. Open because you have that, and then all of the applicants would show up there, so you could print a report out to somebody. Any questions with regards to reviewing applicants? I'm sure there will be the day that when you first start going through them, they'll be, oh my God, this looks completely unfamiliar to me. That's all right. Remember, this is your saved search. It can be designed for your own uses, so you can just create that once you add a field. Now, the other nice thing about this whole saved search area is that you can actually do ascending and descending. You can, this little arrow going this way, you can actually click that and it will move that row or that title row, that column over. You can actually delete it, so if you create it and say, I really don't want this, you can delete that row, add another row. And then once you add another field, so if we wanted to put copy here, I don't think there is one, but as soon as you add an additional field, then that's when you would get that saved search mechanism, so then you could just say cutoff field. You don't have to make it the default, you can just say, I want to say this is cutoff, I want to save. So after a while, if you create multiple searches for yourself, then you can actually go up here to the open searches, and this one happens to be, does it come on the screen over there? They actually show up, when you click on that, they actually show up in this box, and you can actually select them. Because I think you can have up to like 6 that will actually show up on your screen where you can actually select from, and then anything additional to that. A lot of our schools, their admin or their hiring managers want to create all different kinds of searches. They want to get in there and look at the different kinds of reports they can create, because it really does have a lot more functionality than the 5A side of the house does. Okay, well, good. Everybody's still awake, so I'm glad to hear that. Helpful? Good. Okay, and our last section that we're going to go, and we're actually a little bit ahead of time, so that's good. We can hopefully give you back some of your day. Will actually be the section 3, the final stage, which is creating for you the employment recommendation for the hiring proposal. And that's actually very simple. So we've gone into our staff posting. We've found the posting, the facilities posting that we have. This one, we like this applicant. So now we have this individual's application. So we're going to view this application. So we're going to actually move this person all the way to the final state of finalist. So now they're at finalist. You have one more state offered. So now finalist, at that point you're going to contact HR. HR is going to run the background screening. Once the background screening comes back, then you'll go back into the system and or you'll contact the individual, you'll make the job offer to them, you'll move them to offer job accepted, and then your final state will be to recommend them for hire. Once you recommend them for hire, then you're going to see right here you now have a new area which will be start employment recommendations. Once you click on this as the hiring manager, then it's going to ask you that you want to start a hiring employment recommendation for this applicant for this position, and you'll just click on Start Hiring Proposal. And so you can see that from the application, it's copied in their address, all of their pertinent information that's been designated on this form, the position form, the posting number, and then this will be the area that you will actually complete. So you will now complete whatever their salary or their pay is. If it's going to be hourly, you'll put the hourly rate in. If it's going to be salary, then you're going to say that we're going to give it like 67. And you're going to give it a start date. We'll give you the date calendar will show up, so we're going to start them on the 24th. You're going to actually put in the supervisor's name here. And if that's you, then that's fine. Type of employment, you're going to select, so it'll be a new hire. And then if it's a promotion or transfer, indicate the original department. And then you're going to click on Next. And that really pretty much, on your part, is all you'll need to do on that employment recommendation. And then again, you'll just move it on to the next step. And so it'll go on to the director. Again with a new. If you want to see that hiring proposal, you would just click on Staff, put in the applicant's name, and you would be able to track that it's currently with department chair, or you'd be able to go back to it at any point in time, see when it was created, see how much you actually offered them. And then that would end the whole process for you.
And again, the employment recommendations for the faculty can't have all those additional fields on there. Their degree and rank and all that kind of stuff. It's a little more involved.
So yeah, so if we went out and I went back as the hiring manager and I looked for a faculty hiring proposal, I'm sure we probably have one in here. You could actually see, we can view this one. Again, you can see it brings in the applicant, and then it has these additional fields for you. Position, title, and rank, salary, GL, start date, type of hire, highest degree earned, year earned, semester or tenure review. And then it gives you just the summary at the end, and then you have the same approval process as it would go through now.
So our existing postings will change when you, whatever date, March, whatever?
No, anything that's already existing, that's already posted right now is gonna just finish out in the old site. So departments who have current recruitments are actually gonna get the old link to the old secret site. We're not widely distributing that, but,
Right.
and then it's actually on March 13th. When you go to log into PeopleAdmin, you're gonna be on a brand new site. But departments that have recruitments open,
You'll let us know.
yes, you'll get the old link.
Now, one of the things I may say to you is actually the first time you log in, and I have not set this up, but you may be brought in as employee. And so what you will need to do is actually change your user type to hiring manager or hiring manager delegate. Click the refresh button to get a different screen. So if you're brought in as employee, the only thing you probably see is the home tab, my profile, and help. So don't panic if you don't see postings. It says employee, just go ahead in and change your user type to hiring manager, hiring delegate, whatever that is, and then click on that. And then you can also, in addition, if HR, you can either call HR and you can say, hey, I always want to log in as the hiring manager, so please set my preference. Or you can click on my profile and you can actually edit that yourself. So let's see if that actually brings in here. Now that I say that. So preferred group, log in as employee, so you can actually change it to hiring manager. That way you'll never have to worry about doing that. If that's the one that you use, you can go in there, click on update.
It's funny, anyone who applied for their job at Loyola through PeopleAdmin got the employee type in their account. It's just an automatic thing.
Interesting.
And so they loaded all the users and I logged in and I'm like, why am I listed as an employee? but it's because I was hired under PeopleAdmin and it's just automatically associated with your account. We can't take it off. So, for us newbies, we'll all have the employee designation under our account as well.
Because it truly does make sense. I mean, you're hired in an automated system, you are an employee, so that's what it carries it over as. So.
And Josie, the other thing I just wanted to point out as well, we're asking departments, a communication actually went out yesterday to all the vice presidents, that if there's any possible way, if you have postings that are kind of coming up, since the date that the site will turn on, the new site is 2 weeks away. So we're asking all the departments at the university if there's any way people can hold off on posting things until the new site turns on. That would be really helpful. Of course, we understand that sometimes there are emergencies, but if we can avoid that at all, we would like to.
But if more people apply.
They would be
in
applying on the old site.
Mhm.
We'll have a link, there'll be a link that'll basically be out on the Applicant Portal. There'll be a link here someplace with a notice that says they're going to take this off for the time being and put, you know, if you're interested in applying or have applied for one of the following positions, they're going to list all those positions out there. Please click this link, and it's going to point to that link. And that will actually drive the applicants into the HR site. But from your side of the house, you won't be able to start a posting anymore. You'll just be able to finish up the postings that are in there. So any questions while you have my undivided attention today? Anything here causing anybody any pain? Other than the fact that you have to do that is now good. It's good for HR to hear that too, what your thoughts are, what you think. I think for the most part, from a customer perspective, from a user perspective, it's a lot more intuitive. It's a lot easier for you to actually get. You don't have to use that whole left-hand side of the screen anymore. Confirm, click. And I know that when I was at the university, our VP said, "Okay, I need an inbox. I need a mailbox. I need one spot. I can go and find all of my actions. So I don't have to search through the system." So now by having this one inbox here, when you have multiple user types, he will just be ecstatic. He doesn't have to search through the system and change user types. He can go one place, change the user type. And you can also, you can do that. Literally from here, I can approve everything as the associate VP, and I've got also HR. If Kathleen wanted to come in as HR, she could just come up here, change her user type to HR, click on that, and she would have her HR actions as well. So, makes it a whole lot easier for our end users. Yes,
Will
ma'am.
we get an instruction packet?
They're going to have some
So
simple.
we get actively into it.
There will be kind of like a frequently asked questions, almost similar to the document we have for the online performance system, things like that, so that those kind of things that you're doing all the time, you'll have a quick little fact sheet. The things that are more involved, like the evaluative criteria and the search committee functions and things like that, we may at a later time hold workshops that just focus on those areas, so that if departments want to make those processes really robust and really use them to their full potential, we'll do workshops that are more involved in those types of things. But the quick stuff, we will have a fact sheet for you.
Any additional questions? Well, great. Well, I hope you enjoy using the new system. It's been my pleasure to do this one. So thank you all very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
you.
Nice to see you.
I hope you don't mind my coming, but this is so good, just to understand, have that information.
Sure.
And I saw her,
We have all of our